Environmental justice is the fair treatment of all people with respect to environmental laws and policies. It is having the same degree of protection from environmental hazards and the same agency to choose a healthy environment in which to live as everyone else.
Food justice is concerned with access to healthy food, land for gardening, and knowledge concerning nutrition of that food. Food justice works to connect disparities in access to other social justice issues, including race, class, and other demographics.
This map shows all of the neighborhoods of Seattle. In terms of income per capita, Seattle's wealth distribution patterns follow a gradient from north to south. Higher income is generally concentrated in the northern neighborhoods, shown in blue, neighborhoods like Ballard, Fremont, Capitol Hill, and Queen Anne. Lower incomes are shown in yellow and orange and are predominantly southern neighborhoods of the city, including Rainier Valley, Rainier Beach, Georgetown, and South Park. Low-income zip codes are disproportionately faced with environmental hazards such as air pollution and water contamination. In northern neighborhoods of Seattle, the amount of green space per capita is somewhere between 900 to 1,100 square feet, while in South Park, the amount of green space per capita is 40 square feet. Food deserts, which are areas with low access to healthy food, are also typically associated with lower income areas. This could be due to lack of transportation and access to stores and the predominance of convenience stores. Nationally, low-income zip codes have 30% more convenience, corner, and liquor stores than middle-income zip codes. In a review of 89 studies published over the last 20 years on access to supermarkets, unequal access to supermarkets was documented as linked to income, race, or both. An expanding body of research has shown that environmental hazards and limited access to nutritious food are associated with adverse health outcomes. For this reason, food deserts and environmental hazards are increasingly important issues of public health. Who are the people living in these communities?
This graphic, pulling statistics from U.S. Census data, maps the geographic distribution of low-income households in Seattle. The highest concentrations of these households are found south of the city. Similarly, minority communities are found predominantly on the south side of the city as well, especially considering that all of the shaded areas are at least 50% minority. Finally, this graphic demonstrates the severity of linguistic isolation in Seattle, where linguistic isolation is defined as the percentage of households in which no one aged 14 and over speaks English very well or speaks English only. People in these areas face multiple and compounding barriers to health equity. The community most heavily affected by air pollution, for example, runs along the I-5 corridor. This area is low income, 80 to 90% minority, severely linguistically isolated, and has the highest asthma rate in the country. This is just one instance of the ways in which low-income refugee and immigrant communities are more directly affected by environmental hazards, in part due to their socioeconomic status and demographic characteristics. So what is Seattle doing about these issues? One America is an immigrants' rights advocacy organization that engages with community members around the state to encourage civic engagement, affect positive policy change, and make the lives of immigrants and refugees easier through English language support and citizenship clinics, among many other things. Immigrants in the greater Seattle area are disproportionately limited by three factors. A language barrier impedes efforts to seek resources from the city and community. A lack of education about the political system in the U.S. makes participation in local government or elections for individuals that represent their interests difficult or impossible. And finally, a disproportionate exposure to pollution due to the location of low-income housing negatively influences their health, which is especially problematic because immigrants and refugees often have very limited access to health care. One America tackles these and related issues in comprehensive and culturally sensitive ways. They work directly on political as well as environmental justice issues, and their current environmental justice campaign is focused on the effect of air pollution on low-income and minority households, including childhood asthma rates.
Solid Ground is a relatively large nonprofit in Seattle committed to fighting poverty and its root causes. By offering a variety of programs and services, they work to undo racism and other oppressions to change institutional practices and policies that perpetuate poverty. They focus on addressing homelessness, education and tutoring, linking people to essential resources, building a better safety net, and feeding hungry communities. The Lettuce Link program, a part of the Hunger and Food Resources Department, focuses on providing access to fresh food and education on nutrition and sustainable food production. With help from over 2,900 volunteers, they grew 21,562 pounds of fresh produce in 2014. Solid Ground's urban farms are located in South Seattle, where food justice and environmental justice are increasingly relevant. In the Rainier Valley, Solid Ground, Seattle Housing Authority, and Seattle's Pea Patch program converted unused urban land into a community garden that grows organic produce for neighborhood residents with lower incomes and the Rainier Valley Food Bank. An article published in 2013 by a Washington newspaper stated, "No one race can claim majority in 98118. Asians comprise the biggest slice of pie at 32.6%. Whites come in second at 30.9%. Black people and African Americans come in at third place with 25.9%, and Hispanics fourth at 8.1%. Rainier Valley is considered to be a gateway for immigration."
In South Park, Lettuce Link has another giving garden at Mara Farm, a piece of land that has been dedicated to agriculture since the early 1900s. South Park is a relatively isolated neighborhood surrounded by industry and bordered by the polluted Duwamish River, and is also considered a food desert. The produce grown at the farm fits a need for fresh food at food banks and via other food sources. Like Rainier Valley, South Park is also a very diverse population. Based on 2010 census information, the majority of the population is Hispanic at 37.3%. 32.4% of the population is white, followed by a 17.2% Asian and an 8.8% Black population. South Park also hosts a large immigrant community. 44.5% of the population is foreign-born, and 61% of those foreign-born residents are not U.S. citizens.
Due to our experiences as DukeEngage interns at these organizations and within these communities, we believe that there is potential for collaboration. Both organizations have a wealth of information regarding the disproportionate impact of environmental hazards and food insecurity for immigrant and minority populations. Solid Ground has a meaningful link to communities in South Seattle, while One America has substantial advocacy experience.
Bridging these two strengths has the potential to advance the mission of both organizations, which is the just and equitable treatment of these populations. This potential partnership could include collaboration during agenda setting, resource sharing, and the use of One America's advocacy strengths and knowledge of these diverse communities to improve existing food services and enact food justice initiatives that aren't yet being implemented in the community.
A huge thank you to One America and Solid Ground for teaching us so much about the urban challenges faced by Seattle communities and showing us what it means to fight for social justice as we partnered with one another over the course of the summer. Thank you for what you do and who you are.